In courtrooms across the world, judges are known for their calm, their composure, and their command of the law. But sometimes, even the most respected judges can't hold back. The tension builds, tempers rise, and what was supposed to be an orderly trial erupts into chaos. Imagine a packed courtroom, cameras flashing, reporters watching, and a judge trying to maintain order as the world watches live. But then, something snaps. Voices rise. Gavels slam. And the person meant to represent justice itself loses their cool. Today, we're diving deep into the top moments judges lost their temper in high-profile trials, from explosive outbursts to shocking reprimands that became viral sensations. Each moment reveals not just human emotion, but the immense pressure inside the modern courtroom. Let's step inside the halls of justice, where even the judges have breaking points. 1. Judge Belvin Perry and the Casey Anthony trial explosion.
For gesturing by pointing your middle index finger, which you told us is the F word.
Millions of Americans were glued to their TVs watching the Casey Anthony trial unfold, a case filled with lies, accusations, and tragedy. Presiding over this emotional storm was Judge Belvin Perry, a man known for his patience and professionalism. But even Perry had his limits. As defense and prosecution sparred with relentless objections, accusations, and courtroom theatrics, Perry's temper finally erupted. Counsel approached the bench. Now, he barked, slamming his gavel as lawyers continued to talk over him.
Of the crime of direct criminal contempt.
The tension in the room was suffocating. This moment showed just how intense the Casey Anthony case had become, a national obsession pushing everyone, even the judge, to the edge. Perry later admitted that the pressure was overwhelming, with the world demanding justice, and the courtroom becoming a battlefield. That day, the world learned that even judges can feel the weight of emotion when the stakes are that high. 2. Judge Sherry Stevens vs. Jodi Arias, the trial that wouldn't end. In 2013, the world was transfixed by the Jodi Arias murder trial, a shocking case that blended obsession, deceit, and brutality. Judge Sherry Stevens was tasked with controlling this circus of a courtroom. But as months dragged into years, and arguments turned into shouting matches, her patience ran dangerously thin.
The offense was committed with at least 2 deadly weapons, a gun, and at least 1 knife.
Defense lawyers constantly clashed with prosecutors. Witnesses cried. The media dissected every second. And one day, Judge Stevens finally lost her calm. In a sharp, commanding voice, she snapped at the attorneys, "I will not tolerate this behavior in my courtroom." Her glare could have frozen steel. That clip became a viral moment, not because the judge was wrong, but because it showed the impossible task of maintaining order when the entire world is watching. By the end, Stevens' exhausted face said it all. The trial wasn't just about guilt or innocence, it was about control in a courtroom that had become a storm. 3. Judge Jeanine Pirro's legendary courtroom meltdown. Before she became a fiery television personality, Judge Jeanine Pirro was known for her sharp legal mind, and her even sharper temper. During her time on the bench in New York, she presided over several emotionally charged cases that tested her resolve. In one particular case involving a child abuse suspect, the defense attorney continued to interrupt her mid-sentence. That was the final straw. Pirro slammed her gavel, leaned forward, and shouted, "Don't you dare talk over this court again." The courtroom fell silent. Even the defendant froze. Pirro's outburst wasn't just anger, it was passion. A demand for respect, for order, for justice. That moment, later replayed in countless TV segments, became symbolic of her fearless nature. She represented a rare breed of judge, one who could show both compassion and fire in equal measure. It was a reminder that sometimes, justice doesn't whisper, it roars. 4. Judge Ito and the O.J. Simpson trial circus. The O.J. Simpson murder trial was unlike anything the American legal system had ever seen. Cameras in every corner. Every word is broadcast live. And at the center of it all, Judge Lance Ito, a man suddenly thrust into the global spotlight. At first, Ito tried to maintain calm professionalism. But as the trial turned into a media frenzy, with lawyers grandstanding for the cameras and constant delays, his frustration boiled over. At one point, when defense attorney Johnny Cochran kept interrupting, Ito raised his voice. "Mr. Cochran, enough. This is my courtroom." The gavel hit with a thunderous echo. It was one of the few times Ito's patience cracked under pressure. That moment became symbolic of the chaos surrounding O.J.'s trial, a courtroom transformed into a stage, where law and entertainment blurred. Ito's rare outburst reminded the world that even a judge can lose composure when justice turns into spectacle. 5. Judge William Adams, when the camera caught too much. Sometimes, a judge's temper doesn't explode inside the courtroom, it's exposed outside of it. Judge William Adams from Texas became infamous in 2011 when a shocking video surfaced online, showing him allegedly disciplining his teenage daughter in a disturbing manner. The clip went viral overnight. The irony was brutal. A man sworn to uphold justice suddenly stood accused of crossing every ethical and moral line. In public, Adams defended himself. But in court, as reporters flooded hearings and tempers rose, his frustration spilled out. He snapped at journalists, lashed out at questioning, and appeared visibly shaken. This wasn't just a man losing his temper, it was the unraveling of authority itself. A stark reminder that judges are human, capable of both justice and failure. The case forever changed how the public viewed those behind the bench. Sometimes the anger of a judge doesn't just break order, it breaks trust. 6. Judge John Hurley, the bond court explosion. In Florida, Judge John Hurley was known for handling quick bond hearings, until one went completely off the rails. In 2015, a defendant appeared via video call, mocking the process, smirking, and refusing to answer basic questions. At first, Hurley stayed composed. But when the defendant laughed as Hurley read the charges, the judge's patience evaporated. "Do you think this is a joke? You're facing real time here," he shouted, slamming his hand on the desk. The exchange went viral within hours. Viewers couldn't believe how quickly a mundane hearing had turned explosive. But beneath the drama, there was something deeper, a glimpse into how dehumanizing the system can feel for both sides. Hurley later said he didn't regret speaking up. In his words, respect must go both ways. That day, his courtroom became a symbol of how quickly law and emotion can collide. 7. Judge Elizabeth Scherer and the Parkland trial chaos. One of the most recent viral courtroom moments came from the Parkland school shooting sentencing trial. Judge Elizabeth Scherer presided over one of the most painful cases in modern American history, and the emotional toll showed. Throughout the months-long trial, Scherer remained calm, listening to gut-wrenching testimony from victims' families. But during closing arguments, when the defense made personal accusations against the prosecution, Scherer snapped. She stood up, voice shaking with emotion, and told the defense, "You need to sit down. You've crossed the line." Her frustration reflected the raw pain in that courtroom, where grief, anger, and justice were all colliding. That outburst wasn't about ego. It was about humanity. About the impossible task of holding composure while facing unbearable tragedy. Millions saw that clip online, and many didn't see an angry judge, they saw a human being trying to keep the system from falling apart. 8. Judge Joe Brown's outburst that landed him in jail. Irony can be poetic, and nowhere is that clearer than with Judge Joe Brown. Once a TV judge himself, Brown found himself on the other side of the bench in 2014, when he was charged with contempt of court after verbally clashing with another judge. During a heated argument over a child support case, Brown refused to back down. "You're violating due process," he shouted. The presiding judge ordered him to calm down. Instead, Brown doubled down, yelling louder. Moments later, the impossible happened. Judge Joe Brown was handcuffed and sentenced to jail for contempt. It was surreal. The man who once symbolized authority was suddenly the one being judged. But Brown's meltdown became a viral sensation, sparking debates about pride, power, and accountability. It showed that even those who've worn the robe for years can lose their grip on patience when emotion outweighs logic. 9. Judge Marvin Skeen and the Rage of Repetition. In a lesser-known but unforgettable courtroom moment, Judge Marvin Skeen of Washington State was overseeing a seemingly routine case. But the defense attorney kept repeating arguments the judge had already ruled on, over and over again. After the 5th repetition, Judge Skeen finally exploded. "How many times do I have to say the same thing?" His voice echoed through the courtroom. Lawyers froze. Silence filled the air. It wasn't just anger, it was pure exhaustion. A judge's patience, tested beyond limit by what felt like deliberate provocation. Though this clip wasn't as famous as others, it struck a chord among legal professionals. Because behind the formality of the robe lies something deeply human: frustration. Even justice, it seems, has limits. Judge Stephen O'Neill and the Bill Cosby trial breakdown. In 2018, during the Bill Cosby sexual assault trial, Judge Stephen O'Neill found himself under extreme pressure. The trial had drawn national attention, with cameras outside every day, protesters at the door, and celebrities commenting online. As tensions peaked, O'Neill clashed with Cosby's defense attorney, who accused the judge of bias. O'Neill's voice rose sharply. "Don't you dare question my integrity in this courtroom." The packed room went silent. Cameras clicked. For a moment, the robe fell away, and we saw the man underneath. A man accused of unfairness while trying to carry the unbearable weight of public judgment. Later, when reporters asked about his temper, O'Neill said, "The burden of justice is heavier than it looks." That line summed up everything these moments represent: the thin line between calm authority and human emotion. Justice has a human face. As the gavel falls and the courtroom empties, one truth remains: judges are human. They represent the law, but they live within emotion. Every temper lost, every outburst caught on camera, every viral clip, they remind us that behind the robe and the bench is a person battling the same frustration, pain, and fatigue as the rest of us. So next time you see a judge slam a gavel or raise their voice, remember, sometimes justice doesn't whisper. Sometimes, it has to shout. If you found this deep dive into real courtroom chaos fascinating, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more powerful stories from inside the world of law and justice. Because the truth? In court, anything can happen, and sometimes, even justice itself loses its cool.